Well, good afternoon. I'm Scott Higgins, an Army veteran and the co-founder and chairman of WeSalute. As you know, we were previously known as Veterans Advantage, and we've rebranded to WeSalute. We have the same mission to honor those who serve and their family members, but we also have a new uniform, as we like to say, honoring heroes in our society like first responders, nurses, teachers, and several other audiences. So on behalf of all of us at WeSalute, I want to welcome you to our fifth streaming Heroes Meet Heroes, where our U.S. veteran heroes meet our U.S. Olympic heroes. I want to thank you all for joining us. November is National Veterans and Military Families Month, and with Veterans Day just 4 days away, we want to give a big shout out to all the veterans, their family members, and caregivers who are in our audience today, and to thank them for their service to the country and for preserving the freedoms that we enjoy. We also give a shout out to the Marines in the audience. On November 9th, we celebrate the 249th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. So today is a very special day and a time for commemoration and celebration. Heroes Meet Heroes was created 12 years ago by Lynn Higgins, our CEO at WeSalute, who doubles as my beautiful and brilliant spouse. So thank you very much, Lynn. I also want to thank the talented and dedicated members of our WeSalute team who worked so hard on this live streaming event. A big thanks goes out to Roy Asfar, Rebecca Martin, Corey Robeson, Angela McFarland, Marisa Oster, Shanice Innes, Latia Burt, and Jeremy Woolsey for organizing this event. The concept behind Heroes Meet Heroes is for our WeSalute members to meet these outstanding American athletes and likewise for Olympians to honor our veteran heroes. The athletes and veterans who are with us here today will share their stories with you and respond to your questions. They share a lot in common, great determination and success, as well as service to our country. This year's Heroes Meet Heroes is dedicated to Captain Paul Bucha, a Medal of Honor recipient and a longtime member of our board at WeSalute. Bud died this year at the age of 80. He was a legend at West Point and with the 101st Airborne Division. He will be greatly missed. He was a great personal friend of mine. For the second part of our event today, we're going to open the floor for a Q&A session. Everyone attending today is muted, and so we can't hear you. But if you press the icon at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions, I'll present them to our panelists. And you can begin asking questions at any time. And then after the Q&A, we have some giveaways. There's 120,000 Wyndham points, good for a week's stay in one of their great resorts, a free week of an Avis budget rental car, and the first 25 attending this event will receive a free year of WeSalute, or 1 year added to your membership, which is $120 value. That is sponsored by Avis Budget, I may add. And another 60 people will receive 2 free tickets to an IMAX movie of your choice. Now on to our panelists. I'm going to tell you something about each one of them and their amazing accomplishments. Then I'll ask each one to tell us something more about their own stories, what they're doing now, what's important to them. So first up is Priscilla Loomis. She is a powerhouse, effortlessly weaving together the worlds of elite athletics and impactful leadership. As an Olympian, an entrepreneur, and a nonprofit founder, her journey embodies grit and achieving the impossible. From collaborating with global brands like Airbnb and Puma to delivering dynamic presentations that resonate with diverse audiences, Priscilla inspires action by promoting a mindset of positivity, respect, and shared empowerment. More than just a speaker, she's a leader who transforms setbacks into strength, inspiring everyone she encounters to rise to their full potential. Priscilla, welcome back to Heroes Meet Heroes. Great to see you again. What would you like to share with us?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Scott, for inviting me back. Hello, everyone. I'm incredibly honored to be a part of this panel. Yes, I'm a 2016 Olympian. I'm a high jumper, track and field athlete. Started running when I was 6 years old. I'm a world-class medalist, partnered with, like you said, Airbnb and Puma, and I've spoken at Play Like a Champion, Notre Dame University, St. John's University, and got to travel the world doing so. And now I am an entrepreneur and I run a nonprofit that supports single parent households. And we give away scholarships and we host women empowerment workshops. So I'm all about being just a badass warrior and empowering others to live their best selves, and to allow people to be courageous and step into their full potential. So I'm very excited for tonight. Thank you for having me.
So appreciate your comments. Lieutenant General Martin Steele, from a college dropout to a three-star general, Marty Steele's life is proof of his relentlessness and zeal. His journey from a Marine Corps private to Deputy Chief of Staff for Plans, Policies, and Operations, that's essentially the Chief Operating Officer of the Marine Corps, culminated in leading the world's largest naval museum. This is the Intrepid Museum in New York City. Even after achieving such heights, Marty pursued further education, earning 3 master's degrees. And through his work, he not only honors the sacrifices of others, but also actively seeks to heal the invisible wounds of war, advocating for innovative therapies and cultivating a deeper understanding of the true cost of freedom. General Steele is a longtime member of the WeSalute Board of Advisors. Marty, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit more about your work to address the invisible wounds of war, if you would.
Thank you, Scott. Happy Veterans Day to everyone, and happy birthday to the Marines. That will be on the 10th of November. I know they're celebrating on the 9th with where Scott is, but I'm extremely humbled and honored to be here. This is my second time. What I'm involved in, because of my background and experience, my stepfather, never knew my real father, was a prisoner of war in World War II, a pilot shot down, and never really recovered from his experience, and had significant post-traumatic stress for the rest of his life. He was a resilient man, but he suffered immeasurably because of his POW experience in Stalag Luft 1 in Barth, Germany. So it set the stage for me and my enlistment in the Marine Corps, 2 tours of combat in Vietnam, and observing people who were World War II vets, Korean War vets that were my mentors that still had the residual effects of their experiences. So for me, almost 35 years in the Marine Corps, I kept observing this of what we were doing and what was working and what was not working. In 2015, I was appointed to the Commission on Care to look at the VA healthcare system because we had 22 suicides a day for our veterans in the country. We made 18 recommendations to the president, and 15 of them were bought by the president, the Congress, and the secretary of the VA. But my work now is on alternative medicines, looking at research methodologies to look at anything that we can do to prevent deaths of despair by helping develop and advocate for policy and legal reforms needed to facilitate safe and affordable access to psychedelic medicines and assisted therapies. We have the only bicameral bipartisan bill working its way through the Congress right now, and we're trying to mitigate, because of 21 million people in America who suffer major depressive disorders, 13 million with post-traumatic stress, and 2.8 million with treatment-resistant depression. And what can we do to stop the suicide rate in America? I'm so honored to be here. The organizations that I have the privilege to lead are the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition, which has 45 member organizations underneath it, and Reason for Hope, which was started by my law partner in New York, whose mother committed suicide, and a doctor in Houston, Texas, a researcher and a clinician whose father committed suicide. So it's a privilege to be here with you. I'm looking forward to the question and answers, and thank you for having me back on this fabulous panel that we have with us today.
Thank you, Marty. Those were very important comments, and we're lucky to have you here. Sally Roberts is a force of nature, embodying the heart of a warrior both on and off the mat. From Olympic level wrestler and decorated Army veteran to passionate proponent for women in sports, she exemplifies fortitude and determination. Through Wrestle Like a Girl, her groundbreaking organization, Sally uplifts girls and women to discover their strength and leadership potential through the transformative power of wrestling. Her vision extends beyond the sport itself, aiming to foster a world where every girl is afforded the opportunity to strive for greatness and shatter limitations. Sally's steadfast devotion to social change, coupled with her impressive athletic and military achievements, make her an inspiring figure and a true leader for equality. Sally, thanks so much for joining us today. You are an Olympic level wrestler and an Army veteran as well. What would you like to share with us about your vision for equality and where you are today?
Hi, Scott, and thank you for inviting me to come join you. I feel really quite honored and really fortunate and lucky. There's two different resumes that I have. One of them is that I'm a two-time world bronze medalist, a combat veteran in special operations. I wrestled and represented the United States in the Army's world-class athlete program. I founded my own company, and I have had tremendous success and opened doors and pathways of opportunities for girls in the United States and across the globe. My second resume is that I have had PTSD, tremendous concussions, a TBI, 7 surgeries, and I have really endured some of those challenging traumas that a human can go through. And it has been my love of life and my belief in the hope and the possibilities that has driven me purposefully to move forward with life with intention and to make sure that there's no reason that exists on this planet that we do not recognize and support the most vulnerable, our heroes and heroines within our nation and across the globe, and to continue to support and do the very good and necessary things to make sure that freedom, democracy, and human rights gets enshrined in every person for the end of time. So thank you for having me here. I'm delighted and thrilled, and this conversation is really important to me, so I made sure I made time myself.
Oh, thank you, Sally. We appreciate that very much. Syed Faraz is a Muslim immigrant from India. He's woven a remarkable tapestry of achievement, from academic excellence at the University of Texas to soaring as an Air Force navigator with over 630 combat hours. His dedication to service extends beyond the cockpit, driving innovation within the U-2 program, and he raised over $100 million for national security initiatives. Now, with a Harvard MPA in hand, as well as a Stanford MBA, Faraz continues his pursuit of knowledge and impact, balancing his commitment to his country with the joys of family life alongside his wife and their 2 children. His journey exemplifies the power of perseverance in the pursuit of a life filled with purpose and meaning. Wow, Faraz, you've accomplished an incredible number of things in a short period of time. What more would you like to share with us about your story?
First of all, Scott, thank you for inviting me to participate along these much more accomplished and dedicated and distinguished guests. One thing I'll say is that I'm actually in Europe right now for a major NATO conference. And it's actually really well timed because, as everybody knows, Veterans Day is the history of the world wars that we've seen. It was originally called Armistice Day, which was when peace finally broke out in Europe. Now, NATO is one of the I think the most successful military organization in the history of the world in keeping peace. And here I am back in Europe, trying to make sure that the peace that we have fought so hard for and the values that we protect continue to remain strong throughout the world. One thing that I want to make sure to address, sort of following what Sally talked about, is for all the veterans here, make sure that, what I'll talk about is making sure that they take full use of the VA for whatever medical, mental health issues they have. I certainly have, as well as education benefits, and I can love to talk about that. Make sure to start taking advantage of the veterans benefits that you've earned.
Thank you, Faraz. Well spoken. Caitlin Good is a former world-class figure skater turned performance coach and marketing consultant. She empowers high achievers and elite athletes to transcend limitations and achieve consistent elite performance. Her journey, marked by both international athletic success and a career-ending injury, unfortunately, ignited a passion for guiding others through adversity and unlocking their full potential. Caitlin's expertise extends from building high-performing marketing teams and driving exponential revenue growth to helping individuals overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges, including, for her, returning to world-class competition after brain surgery and conquering self-doubt to achieve victory. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining us. You have a remarkable career. What would you like to share with us?
Thank you, Scott, and the entire team at WeSalute for having me. And first, I want to say, as the athletes here, we know that the real heroes are the ones that go to war and protect our freedom. So honored to be part of this panel and to pay tribute to those who have served this great country. And I was first introduced to WeSalute through my work as a head of marketing at Legacy, which is a male fertility company that does sperm testing and freezing. And I was working on the partnership with the VA as well as with the Navy SEALs and Green Beret. But prior to my work as a marketer, in 2010, right after qualifying for my first Olympics, I had a massive injury. And the doctors gave me a choice to either keep skating or walk when you're 30. And so when I was 21 years old, and as you can imagine, my life as I knew it was over. I was forced to retire from being a professional athlete and really left to recreate my identity because my entire life was sport. It was all that I knew. And so, what I realized during those massive hurdles and this loss of identity and actually losing my mom 60 days before World Championships was that our mind is ultimately our greatest asset if we can train it. And as Senza says, victorious warriors win first and then they go to war. And for me, that means the importance of pairing planning and preparation, because if you're going to win, you need to win the inner battle first, the fight with yourself, the fight against self-doubt, the negative thoughts that we all have, even the best of us. And that is when you'll really be ready to go into any performance. So today I take all the techniques that I used to get through the very challenging moments of my life as an athlete and as just a person as well, and bring those to other high performers. So I'm really on a mission to help others conquer doubt, overcome setbacks, and ultimately learn to trust yourself more. So kind of like a personal trainer for your mind and helping the best get better. So thank you again for having me and really excited for the questions.
Thank you, Caitlin. Okay, we'd like to begin the Q&A now. And just as a reminder, you can click the button at the bottom with your questions. And if you want to ask them specifically of one of the panelists, please mention their name. So the first is Priscilla. What was the greatest sacrifice you made to achieve your level of success? What keeps you motivated?
I feel like I get asked this. Can everybody hear me? I'm sorry. I want to make sure everyone can hear me. Okay, awesome. To be honest, I've always been very different. I've always been too much. I've always been, loud, eccentric, and over the top. And so for me, I think one of the biggest things that I sacrificed was that normal way of thinking and that element of stability. So when you're going up for something that is uncertain, you give up, your control over your mental, your physical, and, your emotional, spiritual side, right? So there were times that I had to move across the country or, have these long stretches of not being able to go home for the holidays and, not be at the weddings or the parties or the funerals or have those real connections that I thought that everybody else was having. And so I sacrificed that idea of just playing it safe. That was the biggest sacrifice, I think. But I love that. because I love thriving under pressure. I am a very big believer in, I wasn't meant to be ordinary. And so I think everybody has this really incredible power inside of them. And that's why, I mean, look at this panel, right? I am the lowest of the low of the whole panel, but I still get to be invited because even though I went through, what I went through, we're all on the same, like we're all on the same level of, we're all going through something, we're all fighting something, and we're conquering this and thriving together. And that's why I love that. And what keeps me motivated? This is just something that I feel that I was given. I think there's something within it. Like I said, I don't like to play small, and I just feel like, why not me, right? Like, why can't it be me? I'm a very open and happy person, and I want to be able to motivate others to see that within themselves. It's something that I feel like the women on the panel, we all share in common, is that we want to make sure that we're leaving this legacy because of what we went through. And so what motivates me is making sure that I have this spark and I am the change that I want the world to see. I want to make sure that everybody sees light, sees God's love. They see empowerment, they see focus, they see strength, wisdom and knowledge through me. And if I can help save somebody's life, or save somebody's mental, or save somebody's relationship with themselves, then that's worth it to me. So that's what keeps me pushing. And I'm adopting right now. So having these kids, look at me and my journey, I'm like, oh no, your mama ain't gonna stop now. We're gonna keep
It's so
yeah.
It's a wonderful question. It really is. So, Sally, would you like to add to that about your experiences? What are the greatest sacrifices that you have made to achieve your level of success, and what keeps you motivated?
I think that there's, one of the things that I love about the military, it affords people that don't come from much to have a social safety net and provide them with something. And what I have long been missing is community and love, togetherness, friendship. And what I've had to sacrifice in order to get the things that I have so inherently longed for and desired, I've had to sacrifice fear of the unknown. And every time you let go of one pillar or one lighthouse to swim towards another, it's inevitable that you have to swim across a Mariana's Trench where you have no idea of the monsters that are lurking. And the one thing that you have to maintain is your faith and your sense of self in the midst of everything that can possibly go wrong. And what I've learned is that the only person that I'm going to bet on in times that get really tough, it's going to be me. It's going to be me every time. And when the odds get double stacked against me, I'm going to bet down even more because I know that I'm going to come out. And that's through time and time again, putting yourself in situations where you're either going to lose and learn or you're going to win big. And I've come to understand that experience is what you get when you don't get what you want.
Wow, thank you. Just shifting gears here, we have a question from Aria Drexel to Martin Steele. What changes do you see on the horizon for VA healthcare and TRICARE coverage for alternative therapies such as chiropractic, based on what you are seeing in the literature?
I've been involved with the VA for an extended period of time through all kinds of protocols, whether they be for mental health or chiropractic. And I believe that the VA more recently has made some great progress in these areas. They've got some, because of the manning, if you will, they've got issues to go on the mental health side, but they have really done a great job. And so I see that the future is that they avoid being risk averse and understand that they should be the model to emulate. They should be the leader in these therapies. We've had a 20-year war and multiple tours of combat for these warriors, both visible and invisible wounds. and where we talk about the comorbidities between traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress, military sexual trauma, prosthetics, robotics for amputees, burn victims, etc. The VA is in a position wherein they can be the model to emulate. And what I think is happening right now at this particular juncture in time, as they're coming out of understanding that we still don't see the number of people, I would say, use a metaphor of below the line, the iceberg below. They haven't come out yet with their issues, and they're still struggling with all that. What I am so optimistic about is that we've, in recent, I would say the last 18 months, have really had some breakthroughs with the VA of understanding their moral responsibility in regards to treating veterans much more holistically. And I think that we're getting there. It's going to be, it's why we are committed to do what we do, and why we're wanting to research things, that programs that don't work in the VA and haven't been very successful, for having them look at alternative methodological approaches for treatment. So I'm excited about it, but it's going to be a journey that we're all on, and the same type of discipline that all of these people on this panel have. That's what we've got to have for the VA to see it through, to ensure that this cohort of these selfless warriors who have given so much to preserve our way of life since 9/11, the global war on terror, deserve everything we can do to take care of them in the finest way possible.
Thank you. For those of us who have had thoughts of suicide because of consistent struggles with our military disabilities and the reduction of help we can provide our families physically, what advice can you give? I'm not looking to take medications, or some of my stressors is being in crowds and loud environments. I have a very hard time discussing my service with others and spend most of my time alone, except at work, which does help keep my mind busy, but some days it gets overwhelming. Faz, would you like to comment on that?
I'd love to talk a little bit about my experience. So one of the reasons why I left the Air Force was because I ended up having a stroke and was paralyzed for about 4 months. And at that time, the neurologist gave me about a 5% chance of full recovery. And thank God I was in that 5%. I didn't really do anything to get out of that. I just was paralyzed for about 4 months, and after 4 months it ended. They didn't know why it ended either, but I'm just grateful I was in that 5%. But during that time was some of the darkest moments of my life, and I definitely thought about some of the things that a lot of other veterans have thought about, who've been afflicted with PTSD or other mental health issues. And what I would keep going back to is, what's my purpose? And I would think about my family. So my entire life, my family has been my purpose. My parents, and when I think of family, I think of my entire community, my parents, my extended relatives, and then now my children. So even now, when I still suffer from PTSD, I think, when I'm in my darkest moments, I ground myself and I think about, how am I going to be there for my kids, for my children? I have a 3-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter for my entire life. And so I think about that. And then of course, when I get, there's times where I can't just sort of pull myself up by my bootstraps. And thankfully I've gotten around to starting to use the VA. And yes, it can be troublesome sometimes to find the right care, but keep at it. And there are some really incredible people in the VA who are doing everything they can day in, day out to help veterans like you.
Good. Thank you, Faz. Christine Nelson asks a question for Caitlin, is how do you deal with going from one dream that's taken away from you and then having to move on to something different? Good question.
That's a great question. To be honest, it took a lot of work and a lot of time. For me, it was really a loss of who I thought I was. And I think actually the most dangerous sentence that I ever used with myself was that I am a figure skater. Because in that time, my identity was solely tied to me and my sport. And so anytime that I would have an issue on the ice or fall or make a mistake, it was like this hit to my person of who I was. And I see this a lot in entrepreneurs and actually in people in the military, doctors as well, where they tie their performance to the thing that they do. And so one of the ways that I had to start shifting the language was not I am a figure skater, it was I figure skate, or I do athletics, or I do this thing. And so that was one of the shifts. But the other transition was also learning how to change the words inside in my head. And so we know that 80% of our thoughts are negative, but there's a huge difference between saying a negative thought out loud and thinking it. We know that if you say something out loud, it has 10 times the power of just thinking it. And a negative thought has 4 to 7 times the power than a positive thought. And so if you're externalizing this negativity, so in my case, when I was transitioning from being an athlete to being at that time a student and then a marketer, it was how do I not say, oh, I can't do this. I've never done this before. Oh, there's no way that I don't know anything but skating. Instead of saying those things out loud, I can think them, but not put them out into the universe, because then I'm perpetuating the things that I don't want to have happen. So the steps that I took there is, one, realizing that I am much more than my sport, going back to my values and what I stand for. 2 was changing that voice inside my head so that I actually stopped saying negative things out loud. And it's a very simple shift, but it has a massive impact. And then also trying new things and starting new hobbies and seeing what else I found joy in. And for me, that was actually marketing and channeling my inner competitive drive into something that was using my brain, maybe not my legs, but using it in a different way. So I hope that's helpful.
It is. Thank you so much. So Ernest Nicholson says, Happy Veterans Day, everyone. Thank you for your service. To all the members of the panel, balance in life is so important to exemplary mental health. What are some of the fun things that you all do? Things that bring a smile to your face or moments of levity in life? And how can those moments be consistent and intentional? Thanks for sharing. Priscilla, would you want to tackle that one?
Of course, absolutely. I've spoken on a lot of mental health panels, and the one thing that people are saying is just like, you have such a different outlook on life. And the same thing that Caitlin just said, even when I was a track and field athlete, my transition into regular, I call it muggle life or civilian life, is that I never put that as my full 100% identity. I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I am happy. I am healthy. I am thriving. I am a badass. These are things that I have to tell myself, because what people don't realize is that everyone's like, oh, you're such a happy person and you live this great life and everything's great. I see you on social media, but they don't realize that I've also had to overcome sexism, racism, colorism, being bullied, suffering a terrible case of COVID that kept me out of my my second Olympics, being told that I wasn't enough, being told that I'm not Black enough, it's all these things that just keep getting berated on me and all the time, but I will not allow it to penetrate who I am. And so it is work. It is a lot. I'm fighting for me. I'm fighting for others. I have to fight for myself. And that's the most important thing, is I want people to, it's not going to be like, oh, yay, Priscilla just wakes up and she's happy. No, it's a fight. Because every day I wake up and I'm just like, Priscilla, you got this. That you have the armor. You are ready to go. Expect people to suck. Expect people to not want the best from you. That's fine. That's not your journey. So when I do things, I do them so that I can be a light. So I started my cleaning company as my first business in 2016. I love to clean, right? So I absolutely love it. It's like what I love to do. But then I take a dance course. I'll try a new cooking. I sit in front of my TV and binge watch with my husband a Netflix series. There's this balance that I think comes with happiness, but choose what makes you happy. But the most important thing I want to say is cut away things that make you unhappy. It's your choice. So a lot of social media I had to cut out, right? I work for a PR and digital marketing agency, but when I say it's enough of social media, it's enough, because there's so many things that are going to try and disrupt who you are. So be able to quit those toxic environments, and choose and make room for the things that bring you joy. I'm adopting about to be 2-year-old next week. Her playing with the spoon and her laugh makes me the happiest ever. So just truly choose things, whatever that is, and make it a habit to schedule it, and make sure that it's not going to be this la-di-da, Christmas movie of a choice. It's going to be, you're going to have to fight for it. And it's going to have to be the same way that you show up for military training, the same way athletes train. It's a habit. You got to plan it, and you got to make an intentional choice and cut out everything that doesn't align with that. Sorry, does that answer?
That is, no, it does. That's wonderful advice. Sally, did you have anything to add to that?
I hear people say quite often, I would die for my family. And it makes me beg the question, but would you live for them? Would you live a life with intentionality where you take living for yourself so that you can be there for other people as your life's journey? And so my master's is in sports and performance psychology. I wanted to understand the mind so that I could better drive my mind to drive my body and achieve world and Olympic greatness. And through that pursuit, I came to understand that nothing ever is given to us. One of my favorite quotes is, the most powerful queen isn't given the crown, she takes the crown. And it reaffirms that everything I've ever done and I've ever got, it's because I've earned it. And when I attack mental health, it's because I do just as Priscilla is saying, I attack it. Can I breathe right? Can I get enough sunlight in the morning? Can I challenge myself to eat the most healthy food possible? Can I drink enough water? Can I socialize enough around the right people? And I make it a challenge. And what I've found is that the more that I can embrace that lifestyle, the more it becomes who I am. And it's no longer a diet like we're in wrestling and we're having to make weight. It now becomes a lifestyle that I enjoy living. And it not only nourishes me, but it nourishes every life that touches me, because everyone wants the same thing. And that is to be joyful, to live in peace, and to have gratitude.
Oh, very well put.
Scott, can I add something to what Sally said that really resonated with me? I think you said something, it was very short in your sentence, but I believe it goes back to the statement that belief is earned. And this is about that confidence to go after those things. And I think that ultimately confidence comes in the components of the small pieces of evidence that you have of doing the things that you want to do next. So I used to say that I don't believe in myself. I have evidence, and I have evidence because I looked for it. I haven't left my attitude up to chance. I have deliberately sought out those times and filtered the memories of my past to learn how to talk to myself. And I think all this starts to build this sort of mental bank account. So when you do have those moments of doubt, those moments of, oh God, this is something I've never done before, you can walk back and say, you know what, but I have done pieces of this. I have done components of this new thing that I'm trying to do. So I have done hard things. I've learned new material before. I've done well on a test. I've passed the hardest physical exam that anyone could probably possibly test. So going back to that, belief is earned. And if you're trying to break something down that's new to you, and I know we started this around a concept of what we do for fun, but I think a lot of that comes back to the confidence that you have in yourself to try those new things potentially.
Very, very good. General Seal, there are a number of questions here about the 15 suggestions that were received for suicide prevention. Have any of those known to be working well or the best? And along with that, there was another question. What improvements do you see coming in the future to reduce the risk of PTSD-related suicides?
The recommendations covered the gamut of what we believe the VA needed to do to be able to ensure its viability, because one of the taskings was, would we recommend at the time, because of the suicide rate of 22 a day at the time, that the VA was failing at this cohort of veterans. And so it was privatization of the VA was under consideration, which we did not recommend to privatize the VA. We wanted to go to community-based care if there could not be a vibrant response in a timely manner to get a proper care for a veteran who may have to wait, or they didn't have the resource that the veteran needed, and that needed to be changed, and they needed to hire qualified people. So, but they became the Mission Act, the PACT Act, the WISE Act. All of that legislation came out of our recommendations that took some time to be able to bring. And this Breakthrough Therapies Act, which is accelerating access to innovative therapies through these treatment protocols to mitigate against suicide, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, are all about research therapies, not decriminalization or social use of these medicines. They're Schedule I drugs that we need to reschedule to Schedule II so we can expand the access and do what's needed to be done for the most people in the most significant time to be able to ensure that they would have an opportunity to live life. I think that in reinforcing from the question and my answer, listening to these world famous athletes that are on this call, for me at 18, going to combat the first time, which kind of pulls together everything they're saying from their world-class experience, is I came out of that experience of what do you do with the gift of life? Yeah. What do you do with the gift of life? And to realize that I didn't get killed. And I had many people that died in my arms. And I felt that there was a purpose that I had to give back. And my whole life, about your question about what's fun, it's that opportunity to be able to be with people in giving back, to ensure that they have the gift of life and that they want to live valuable lives for their families, their children, their adopted children. All of them want to be able to do something that they can make a contribution to our society. So for me, kind of closing the circle, what I'm in therapy, it's about what are we doing to be able to communicate with one another. For me, it's a philosophy of seize this day. You can't bring back yesterday. You don't know about tomorrow, but what are you doing this day with the gift of life? Seize it. Subordinate yourself to the task that you have, to be happy, to be able to be with people that you get energy from, that you provide energy and love to them through faith, through your lived experiences, but you have an opportunity to do that. Bloom where you're planted. Quit thinking about if I only did this. You listen to these world-class athletes here. World-class athletes that all had major traumatic events occur in their life, and they made the adaptation through their resilience to carry on. And whatever it may have been, they're profound messages for what life is supposed to be and where do we go to take the turns to be able to do the things that need to do to ensure that we understand what the gift of life. And the last thing, which it hasn't been said here, but they all, from their families, from their coaches, and then what my lived experience was in 35 years, it sees off each other's strengths rather than attack each other's weaknesses. When we learn to love one another, when we learn to respect one another, when we learn to understand everybody brings something to the table that we don't have, and we rely on them to bring that, we create this environment of love and respect that will enable us to move forward as a culture, as the greatest democracy the world has ever known. And it's going to have to take that effort, because we're at that point right now where we have the opportunity to do that.
Very well put. Thank you, Marty. Faraz, as a Harvard MBA, has your military background hurt or helped you in comparison to your other classmates? And has it changed your decision-making process? Have you changed it throughout your career?
I think it's actually a really unfair advantage to be from the military. because, it took me leaving to understand this, because every day that you're in the military or you're in a high pressure position, like, you're training for the damn Olympics, you are required to make tough decisions with limited information every day. And you're required to lead projects, you're required to lead people. And that built-in leadership development program, whether you serve for 4 years, 3 years, or 30 years, by the time you are done, you have this incredible experience of leadership. And for me, what it was, that it's not that I was special. It's just that I'd had, almost a decade of day in, day out, making decisions with limited information. And these are critical decisions. And so to me, being from the military in, a top school was an unfair advantage, and it was a competitive advantage. And that's how, I would like each veteran here to think about their service, is that it's training you for an incredible life after service. And what I would encourage is to find your next purpose. The military is great at giving you purpose. You have an MOS, you have an AFSC, here's your job, here's your mission. Once you leave, it took some time for me to find my purpose, and I would encourage you to do that.
Good, thank you. John San Felice, I believe I pronounced it correctly. Caitlin, what an amazing field and purpose. I start college this spring semester for a career in substance abuse counseling, accomplishing this through assistance from the VRE. Any books or material you can recommend along the lines of topics that you spoke about, training your mind, our mind is our greatest asset, etc.?
Definitely. The one that I absolutely love that is sitting right on my bookshelf, as I always have it as just a subconscious plant. It's called It Takes What It Takes by Trevor Moawad. He was the mental performance coach of Russell Wilson, the quarterback, or I think he's now the part of the Steelers. It's just a phenomenal book. And honestly, I learned all of these things from my mental performance coach. Her name was Stephanie Hanlon. And I didn't know what a lot of these topics were called, or that they had names, or there was things called neutral thinking. And I just learned them and performed them. And then when I read this book, it was like my whole world was unlocked, because he really put words to the things that I had done. So highly recommend that one. Another one that I really highly recommend is called The Inner Game of Tennis. So it's actually not about, well, even if you don't play tennis, there is some phenomenal things that you can take away from that. Highly, highly recommended. Both are quite short books, easy to read or listen to on Audible. But those would be two top of my list.
Good, thank you. A couple of questions on transitioning from the military to civilian life. One of them is, what are some of the routes to take when you have a family of 5? And how can I do this without putting my family through a very hard time? Who'd like to tackle that?
I'll answer that first, and then I'll tee it up for someone else to follow along behind. I think that it's important to remember that the medals around our neck and the medals that we wear on our chest from service, they don't define us. They show us what it is that we're capable of. And we're capable of doing really incredible things. When I was getting ready to transition on a Sunday, I was a service member and I was an elite athlete. And on a Monday, I founded my own company. But that was very intentional because I didn't know what the heck I should do. I submitted a resume to be a clerk at 7-Eleven, and I also submitted a resume to be a CEO of a company. And I had no idea where I fell in that realm. And there's 2 really phenomenal organizations that I have alignment with. One is Hire Heroes. I'm on the board, and it works to get veterans gainful employment and helps to get them securely employed. The other one is Hiring Our Heroes, and it works on skill bridge programs, and it works on being able to bridge that pathway from becoming a veteran into the civilian world. And what I've been saying and what we've all been saying is that you can do it alone. There are plenty of people that in fact can go alone, but It is so much better if you can get a community, you can get people around you, if you can get a support network, because you want to be able to bounce ideas off someone. If things aren't going good or things don't feel right, sometimes we have to get recalibrated. One of the biggest challenges that I had in going from the military to the civilian world was that the things that got me selected for special operations, special mission units was that I was mean, hostile, and aggressive. In the civilian world, that was the first thing that people would hold against me because I was mean, hostile, and aggressive. And I thought, well, I don't understand. And my employees would come up to me and say, Sally, we're absolutely terrified of you. And I had to say, you mean you don't want me to be mean, hostile, and aggressive? And they said, no, we want to be able to talk to you like you're a human being. And you know, growing up, I grew up with Apollo Antonono, who's a short track speed skater. He's a decorated Winter Olympian. And I was talking to him because we retired from athletics about the same time. And I said, what has been one of the biggest challenges that you've run into when you transition from athletics into the civilian world? And he said, without skipping a beat, empathy. The same was with, I also struggled with empathy. We would beat our opponents, they would cry, and we would point at them and laugh and say, ha, 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 I'm better than you. And it turns out when you're working in business and you're working in collaboration, that's the opposite that you want to do. You actually all want to finish together as a team. And so it also goes into being able to recalibrate your brain, being able to recalibrate your mind. So you can look at the landscape differently and give yourself allowances and give yourself grace for trying new things.
Wow. Anyone want to add anything to that?
I had the privilege to run 2 programs for transition from the Marine Corps, in this case, to the private sector, paid for by a philanthropist. We put about 950 people through the program. It was extensive for spouses, the Marine, and male or female, it didn't matter. And it was the experience from the philanthropist. He wanted to be able to measure our success on how many people we placed in the 23 companies that were sponsoring our efforts. And we would have their HR person or their hiring manager, and it was everything from Starbucks to Bank of America to FedEx, UPS, Union Pacific Railroad. We had a myriad of people in the room. And our focus was kind of in consonance with what we're talking about here. First of all, you've got a skill set that's unparalleled, which is kind of what you're hearing here. And it will resonate. We just got to, compartmentalize it and say, this is what you line up for. You need to have the confidence and understand by doing some reflection that perhaps you haven't done. Just like the gentleman who asked the question, I've got 5 kids. I don't want to put a burden on my family as I make the transition. Well, our perspective is that you have so many things to offer them that they've never had anyone with your background and experience. It doesn't matter what your specialty was in the military, but you're going to bring so much to them because of your unique skill sets. We were great believers in the Myers-Briggs type indicator to use as a tool to take that instrument. Most people call it a test. It's not. Some people disagree with it, but it's a great tool to do self-reflection on your preferences in life, whether you're an introvert or extrovert. Some of you may know that, but I would recommend people take that tool, that's all it is, to help you understand yourself more, of how others would perceive you, just like Sally, she was perceived. And what you think and understand for the first time, people think differently than you. The second was, I live in Florida, and we established a program for transition called Veterans Florida. We had corporations that wanted to hire vets, but didn't know how to go about doing that. And it's the #1 program in the country for veterans getting jobs in transition. And I was a part of that for 8 years. It's a fabulous understanding that the critical skills that veterans bring, no matter how long they've been in the military, and you've heard that on this call tonight, they have uniqueness that no one else has. And so it's getting out there, understanding that. humility, empathy, all of that is part of it. But really what separates you, that people, they've never seen anything like it. We started all this during the global war on terror, and most of the HR people were fearful that, euphemistically, the Marine would go postal in the corporate world. They could kill people. Doesn't matter whether they're male or female. And so we had to convince them by just having them tell their stories when the HR directors were in there of why that's an absurdity. Yes, it may happen in isolation, but you're never going to get anyone that's got the skills like this military person has. And you need to take advantage of that, which is very successful. So I think that the transition is reflection. The transition is self-confidence in your ability and the opportunity to be able to take your game to another place and make a major contribution in society.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty.
Do you mind if I give some real tactical advice for the veteran transit or the service member transitioning? I'm going to share 3 things. The first is make sure to get first of all, get all your medical documentation in order. From whether you serve 4 years or 20 years or 30 years, get everything in order and start, make sure to file for your VA package. What that'll do is whatever percentage you get, it'll give you, if I don't know what the exact number is, but you hit a certain point, you're able to get healthcare for your family. And that's going to be a huge burden off your shoulders once you become a civilian. The second thing is if you want to take advantage of educational benefits, the VA also has some great opportunities there. And the third thing is if they also have resources for your spouse through the VRE. So those are 3 things you can do to really make sure you're taking care of the family. But the most important thing is the medical one, the first one. So get all your medical stuff documented while you're in the service. I know that every single service, the Air Force included, the Marines, everybody really kind of discourages, you going to the, for me, it was a flight dock when you're in a uniform, but you got to get that stuff done because it's going to be really valuable for your family.
Okay, good. Very good advice. We appreciate that. We're coming to the end of our Q&A here. I wish we have a lot of other questions that we'd love to ask, but we are coming to the end of it and appreciate that everybody's questions very, very much. And the ones that have not been addressed by the panelists, we'll be getting back to you on our best thoughts on those as well. So let me just take a moment here to shift gears, and I will move on. I want to give special thanks to our lead sponsor, Avis Budget, and the talented team there that's led by Senior VP Stephen Wright. For many years, Avis Budget has advocated for veterans and has partnered with WeSalute to offer exclusive savings to our members. Joining us again as a sponsor is 1-800-Flowers and its family of brands. Jim McCann, who's the chairman and founder, makes sure that WeSalute Plus members receive 30% off their flower orders, the very same benefit and discount that they offer their own employees. 1-800-Flowers has also teamed up with WeSalute to send letters to veterans to thank them for their service on Veterans Day, which we appreciate very much. We also want to thank IMAX and their CEO, Rich Gelfand, who's donating hundreds of tickets to an IMAX movie, 2 each for many of those who are attending today, and to Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, honoring WeSalute Plus members with deep discounts on rooms in its more than 9,000 properties worldwide. Today, we're awarding 120,000 Wyndham points, which is good for a week's stay at one of their exceptional properties worldwide. And to Brookdale Senior Living that offers WeSalute Plus members deep discounts at over 650 communities across 42 states. We're deeply honored to have these sponsors. And on behalf of Avis Budget, 25 of you attending our event today will receive a free 1-year subscription to WeSalute Plus, or 1 year added to your current membership that has a value of $120. Our WeSalute Plus members will also be getting a real thank you for Veterans Day from our partner Wendy's. So make sure you go to Wendy's before 10:30 on Veterans Day and show your WeSalute Plus card for a free Veterans Day breakfast combo. So before we announce our winners, I wanted to let you know about some important initiatives at WeSalute. The first is we just launched WeSalute gear, like the shirts that the panelists are wearing, like my own, which are great. We also have some wonderful hats there with your branch of service on them. It says WeSalute. It has the Marines, Marty. We got to get you one of those. And other clothing at very affordable prices. So you go to Wear WeSalute on wesalute.com. It's in the header, and check it out. The second thing is we are running a 3-year sale this month with 75% off, and it's a great opportunity to lock in your benefits for 3 years at an incredibly low price. You'll be getting an email on the sale. I think actually it went out today. Now, to the winners of our giveaways. We've employed a random selection system to choose the winners, which have been just given to me. And the Wyndham winner is Mike Sianka. Mike, congratulations. And I think we can turn on your mic. And if you hear us and your mic is on, say hello. And so Rebecca or Roy, were you able to turn on Mike's mic?
Yes, it's on.
Hey, Mike, can you hear us?
Scott,
All right.
he made a note that he doesn't have a mic.
He's dumbfounded. He won.
Maybe he doesn't have a mic. Yeah, that's probably right. Okay, on to the Avis budget winner, Maria Alberti. Maria, congratulations. And if your mic is turned on, please say hello. We'd love to hear your voice. Okay, well, in any event, you'll be receiving those congratulations in an email, and you'll be able to get your Wyndham points and also the Avis budget car for a week. So congratulations. I also mentioned that 25 of you have been selected to receive the free year of WeSalute Plus, and another 60 have been selected to receive the 2 free IMAX tickets. And as I said, you'll be receiving emails to confirm the free year and to award the IMAX tickets. So thank you very much. I want to thank each of the panelists for finding the time to be with us today for our Heroes Meet Heroes event. And thanks to all of you for your service and your support of WeSalute. Happy Veterans Day. Stay safe and see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.